I guess I would say the type of drama is the ones that don't clean up after themselves, like you had mentioned, Bobby. But other drama I would have to pinpoint is when food goes missing out of the fridge. I've witnessed someone go into the fridge to get their milk, and it was gone, but yet the culprit wasn't even smart enough to get rid of the garbage. They put it right in the garbage for them to see.
Rising above the buzz of ultrasonic cleaners and the clanking of stainless steel are the ideas and voices that are changing an industry. You're listening to the Beyond Clean podcast, the central nexus for the people, processes, and products that are improving our sterile processing world. Each week, we speak with frontline technicians, CEOs, engineers, and entrepreneurs with a common goal: to help you fight dirty, every instrument, every time. Whether you're tuning in for education or inspiration, we're glad you did. Now turn on those washers and turn up the volume. It's time to go beyond clean.
All right, Sterile Processing Universe. Hank Balch here in studio today with
Bobby Parker.
What's up, Bobby? How you doing today?
Having a great day. Looking forward to talking about some refrigerators.
The one topic, maybe, when you became a sterile processing technician, if someone would have told you, number one, that you'd be hosting a global podcast about sterile processing every week, but number two, on that show, there would be an episode on fridges, something tells me that you wouldn't buy that.
That's right.
So we've got some terrific guests in store for you today, Nicole, Walley, and Stacey, Gielen, to zoom in on this topic. It's a universal experience. We've almost all got fridges in our break rooms, or if we don't have one in your specific department, you've probably been in departments that have them. It's a central kind of nexus. It's the epicenter of a lot of this break room culture and experience. And I, for one, strongly believe that if we get it wrong, it's going to have ripple effects and impacts across the department. So hang with us here. We'll be right back in studio with our guests to dive into this little thing that makes a big difference in sterile processing.
I'm Bobby Parker.
And I'm Hank Balch.
From the studios of Healthcare HQ, you're listening to Beyond Clean, the global voice of sterile processing.
All right, Clean Freaks, we are in studio now on this Eat Clean, Fight Dirty episode of Season 25, Sterile Processing and the Break Room Fridge. And we've got some great guests in store for you today that have thought a time or two around this fridge conversation, and they've learned by experience. But as I told them before we started this recording today, I'm not aware of any other conversation in the industry at the educational level that has dove into this topic. So we're going to be making a little bit of history today, like we love to do on the Beyond Clean channel. But first, before we get into the meat of the interview, let's do a couple of introductions. Nicole Walley is here with us. Nicole, what's your story?
Well, thanks, Hank. I'm glad to be here today with you, Stacey and Bobby, to discuss this very important topic. My name is Nicole Walley. I've been in the field of sterile processing for 7 years, and I've been traveling for the last 3. I currently hold 3 of the 4 certifications recognized by the Healthcare Sterile Processing Association, and I really developed a passion for this industry over a period of time, seeing the same common issues across the country, whether it be in processes, leadership, workplace culture, and morale. And I've really honed in on my critical thinking and problem-solving abilities over the years, and more recently, over the past year, gotten into a bit of a product development, and I have a patent-pending product for use on the clean side for inspection of cannulated instrumentation and devices, and that'll be going out for a second round of beta testing very soon. So exciting things coming from Technical Solutions.
Yeah, love it. And, there's a lot of folks that listen to Beyond Clean, obviously, that have been working in sterile processing or NBR for many years. And they're sitting around thinking like, man, I've got this problem to solve. And I'd love to do something with this idea. And it's really hard to go across and actually take that next step. And so, yeah, we're really excited to talk to you about that on another episode of Beyond Clean down the road. But welcome to the show today.
Thank you.
And then, yes, Stacey Gielen is also here with us from across the border, just north of probably where most of y'all are listening to this show. So, Stacey, what's your story? What's your introduction here?
Okay, so I have been a sterile processing technician now for 16 years. Aside from that, I also teach at the college, so I do the placements for all the new techs coming into the field. And for the last, I'd say 6 years, I have also sat on the board for Ontario, which our main goal is to promote and educate all the technicians here in Ontario as well as across Canada. And just recently on Canada Day, we announced the big news that we're bringing the Beyond Clean podcast here into Canada. So my partner Barry and I from the East Coast will be hosting that, which we hope to have launched end of October, early November. So all you clean freaks will have to stay tuned for that.
Yeah, that's such an exciting announcement. And we just made that, as you said, on July 1st. And it's been a funny experience, from the U.S. side. Obviously, we've had a lot of Canadians tuning in through the years Beyond Clean, but I'm personally really excited to tune into Beyond Clean Canada to learn the opposite direction, to know what's going on in the Canadian market and the industry. How do you guys do things different? What do you do the same? And there's so much to learn. Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
And learn from each other as well.
Right. Well, that's what we're going to be doing today. Not about Canada and not about innovations necessarily. We're going to be talking about this Breakroom fridge. And of course, this whole theme of season 25 is the little things that make a big difference. And Bobby, I think this fridge topic may be the biggest piece of equipment, right? So this is not like a little washer. This is not like a little case card caster. These fridges, for the most part, are pretty large, unless you're talking about a mini fridge, I guess. But, this is something that does have an impact culturally on the team. And Nicole, I think you mentioned that in your introduction, that you've become passionate about the impact of culture and everything that revolves around that in sterile processing. So let me just start maybe with you, Nicole, and say, if you were to define the purpose of the Breakroom fridge, how would you start us off on that definition today?
Well, I'm going to start with a question. And have you ever heard of the Waffle House Index?
I'm not. No. Educate me.
Okay. So it's a real thing. To sum it up, the Waffle House Index runs on a color indicator scale of green, yellow, red. So you could probably guess green is good, red is bad. But they use this as an indicator of the severity of the weather conditions in relation to hurricane season. So back in 2017, I was living in Sarasota, Florida, and Hurricane Irma was coming. And the Waffle House on the main road that I was driving down to get to work was boarded up. And I thought that was really strange. I know people were boarding up their houses, but I had mentioned it to someone at work, and they're like, yeah, if Waffle House is closed, it's going to be serious. So I thought, maybe the unofficial purpose of the Breakroom refrigerator could possibly be that it's an indicator of high or low morale, great or poor workplace culture. Whereas a clean and well-kept refrigerator could indicate a smoothly run department with positive workplace culture, and a poorly managed refrigerator could indicate the opposite.
Oh, I like that. It's kind of like the canary in the coal mine with investors. It's the symbol of, when things start going wrong around the fridge, look bigger because there's a bigger problem that's going on at hand. So that's really good. So we always start these conversations off with some basic definitions, and nobody really needs to hear us define what the fridge is. But walk us through, if we were to open up your latest Breakroom fridge, what are some of the things that we would find in there, and maybe more importantly, the things we wouldn't find in there?
Oh, well, for instance, if you opened up the fridge, let's say at the hospital that I work at, you're going to see those respectful employees whose belongings are neatly tucked, trying to use minimal space possible to allow like the other employees to also refrigerate their lunches. You're going to have the employees who completely disregard the space and leave old lunch containers, science projects growing in the back. And one thing that actually really stands out and grosses me out is the ones that put open pop cans back into the fridge. Like just the amount of bacteria and microorganisms in that just completely grossed me out. But you're definitely going to find the ones who respect other spaces and the ones that do not have respect for other spaces.
That's an interesting angle that you take on that, Stacey, because on the podcast and in a lot of our education, we talk about designing the process in a way that it naturally helps and encourages people to make the right decision. And then we open up your fridge, and your first kind of definition of what we see there is really person specific, right? Because you got these one categories of, hey, these are people that are thoughtful and respectful of others, and these are people not so much. And then they kind of mix in those groups of people into this fridge, and then it sounds like it's kind of a free-for-all once you open the door.
Really, it's a communal privilege that needs to be respected and not be taken advantage of.
Is that what you see too, Nicole, from your experience, like in this kind of fridge environment, right? Is it a free-for-all, open the door, and then you see what people are really made of?
I mean, I think that's a great way to describe it, relating it to maybe someone's personality and values. It could be an indicator of, this is a respectful person who's going to keep in mind that there are other employees that need to put their lunch away as well. And then the latter being that, there might be employees that are taking a disregard for the fact that there's a whole team of people that need to use the fridge. My last Breakroom fridge, when I opened it up, I only can describe it as dysfunction and chaos. Leaking bags of lettuce, old balled up grocery bags with who knows what inside. There was food left from employees that weren't even working there anymore. So if we're going off of my theory of the refrigerator being an indicator of workplace culture and morale, I can confidently say that in this situation, it would have been proven true.
So you got me with the food that belongs to employees that don't work there, don't work there anymore. But right. What you didn't get me with is that it's just a ubiquitous experience of employees to have a Breakroom refrigerator that gets out of hand. I think everybody's nodding in agreement who's listening to you, Nicole. And so kind of the next natural question is, why do you think that happens on just a grand scale to workplace fridges, even beyond sterile processing? Why do they get out of hand?
I think, it's very symbolic of a department that is in survival mode. When the morale among coworkers is low and you're just barely keeping your head above water to get the work within the department completed in time, those other things that are also our responsibility, they get set on the back burner. And by nature, we're less inclined to take initiative to go above and beyond when we're spread thin. And, so there again, the workplace culture, it really has everything to do with whether the employees are going to feel empowered and take that initiative to take care of the other things that are our responsibility.
Sure. Yeah, I would believe that workplace stress contributes to it. Stacey, anything you want to add to that discussion as to why we see this in just about every department?
Well, take, for instance, the fact that our industry is running short on a daily basis. So all the efforts being put into, at least we hope, into the instrumentation work. So the last thing, like Nicole said, the last thing that people are worrying about is what the refrigerator looks like or what the break room looks like, which is unfortunate because that is our space to go to de-stress. but yet half the time we're walking into a chaotic situation.
Sure. Well, what I appreciate about what both of you said is that the blame should initially be pointed at the environment and the situation employees are given. I think a good phrase for us to take into work every day when just relating with people is assume positive intent. You know, I can think of some people who had some pretty awful break room practices, and we say the word disrespectful. They were some of the nicest, sweetest, kindest people, but they just had a bad habit of not cleaning up after themselves. And it's not because they were mean. They're just maybe forgetful or they weren't raised that particular way. It's kind of like going off to college and discovering when you get your college roommate that not everybody lives the same way that you do at home. So I do appreciate that. The trouble that comes from it, obviously, is the drama and the fallout that happens when the break room fridge gets kind of nasty. Have either of you experienced any of that, and maybe an example of the type of drama that can ensue in the break room?
I guess I would say the type of drama is the ones that don't clean up after themselves, like you had mentioned, Bobby. But other drama I would have to pinpoint is when food goes missing out of the fridge. I've witnessed someone go into the fridge to get their milk, and it was gone, but yet the culprit wasn't even smart enough to get rid of the garbage. They put it right in the garbage for them to see. So it's things like that. I mean, that's more humorous in my opinion, because you just shake your head. But as for drama, I don't know, Nicole, what do you think?
I have to agree with you. I think that's probably the number one complaint is someone's food or drink disappearing. And then that creates drama because someone's going to be frustrated that their food is gone. Rumors start to develop as people speculate about who did it.
Who the culprit was.
Yeah. So the infamous someone ate my lunch.
Yeah. Yeah. Y'all brought up, I'm glad that we got to where we are, right? Because this isn't just a quality of life kind of discussion with, hey, we don't want our fridge being dirty and nasty when we open it. But then there's also this level of accountability. And I don't know, like maybe a good analogy here is this is one of the few spaces like our locker room, if you're lucky enough to have a locker room, that everyone goes together but still shares a space. Right? Like even when we're working in the department, you typically have your own workspace. It may be small, but you got your own table or you got your own sink that you're working out of. You don't have to share the space. And even that is not our stuff like it is in the locker room or in the fridge. Like that's my can of chicken noodle soup, right? It's mine. Right. I bought it. I brought it in. Maybe I ate half of it. Yeah. Put my name on it. Maybe I ate it all. Maybe I didn't. Maybe I want it for tomorrow. Yeah. Maybe like Bobby said, I forgot it's even there, which is something maybe that has happened in the past. But, it brings up this point back, to what both of y'all have brought up is this is an intersection that tells us something about the department, about the staff, and about like potentially, I don't know if anyone has said this, even about the leadership in the department. And so I kind of want to go here now because the tie-in, anyone tuned into this episode is going to be like, okay, that was a random topic, right? Like I get washer arms, I get sterilizer gaskets, I get, the sticker guns, but I don't get the fridge, Hank. So what's the deal with the fridge? So I want to give you both an opportunity now to connect the dots that we've already kind of been throwing out there a little bit, but really to bring it home and now and tell us in your own words. We'll maybe start with you, Stacey. Like, how would you say this little thing of the break room fridge, the drama, the dynamics, why is it such a big deal in our department cultures and our breaks and in our lunches?
My hospital, I would say, we're huge advocates and we really speak for the culture of kindness. And like I had mentioned earlier, the break room is a place where we are supposed to be able to go and de-stress and relax. Everything we do on a daily basis is very stressful as an MDR technician. We have people's lives in our hands every day. So when you get that 15 minutes to go sit breathe. The last thing you want to do is hear your coworkers talking about so-and-so who did XYZ. I think that's a huge issue with the break rooms. And I'm not saying like go to the break room and don't talk. Like that's not it either. And I think another culture you see too is you walk into a break room nowadays and everyone's staring at their phones. There's no conversation. But I'm not saying there should not be conversation. But leave the drama out. Leave the drama out. Leave the stress out. We do spend more time with our employees, our fellow coworkers, than we do with our own families. We do see the good. We do see the bad. But you got to stay positive. You have to have a management system in that makes sure that culture of kindness is being followed.
Love that. What about you, Nicole?
You know, if the break room's not clean, if the fridge isn't clean in the break room, then in my experience, the break room itself isn't clean either. And that really just leaves us no place to go that seems clean, a bit peaceful, where we can take a breath. What we do is it's high pressure. Sterile processing is taxing. Sometimes we just need a break, and we don't want to take a break in an area that is uninviting. One of the issues that I run into sometimes is that I actually begin my break by cleaning a space for myself. If that's not frustrating, I don't know what is. Also, not having the supplies that you would need, napkins, utensils, having to walk across the facility. A lot of these apartments are in basements. And so walking across the facility to get the things that you need, and just those little things that take time out of what is supposed to be your break, your uninterrupted time to take a breath, that's going to bring about frustration. And inevitably, that's going to affect the mood of the employee. And whether we want to believe it or not, our mood affects others. Whether we're happy, like we could make someone's day. If we're not in a good mood, maybe our tone is off and we've, perturbed one of our coworkers. As much as this is an underrated topic, it's super important, having that space to decompress and then return to work with maybe a little bit better of a mood or an attitude. So I think that the break room and the break room fridge and the condition that we leave it in says a lot about the condition of the workplace culture in a department.
Yeah, that's really well said. And going back to the Waffle House illustration, that, indicator of if things in the break room are bad, things in the department are probably pretty bad. One of the things that Beyond Clean podcast has always been about is support for that frontline technician. And so I'm curious from your all's perspective, what advice or tips could you give, particularly for the frontline technician, but also for our leaders out there, of how to take a toxic break room situation and a radioactive fridge situation and start moving in a positive direction?
Oh, actually, Nicole, do you want to tell your story about your other facility? Yeah.
So in the beginning of my sterile processing career, I had the pleasure of working at Sarasota Memorial Hospital in Sarasota, Florida. And they had it all figured out with their break room fridge, their break room. First of all, they had a temperature log for the refrigerators, which amazing. I don't ever see. Like, if that's got to be an indicator of organization, right? But what I liked is that we all had assigned tasks. So it was like a chores list, basically. And our supervisor would make it weekly. So about a half hour before the shift was over, that group of employees who had a responsibility that week would go on Fridays as a group into the break room, and we would each do our responsibility, whether that was mopping the floor, wiping down the tables, or cleaning the fridge. It gave us ownership over taking care of a space that was ours. We also got to work together with people within our department. It was a pretty big department, so we might not necessarily cross paths or work alongside each other. And so it gave us an opportunity for teamwork with people that we might not normally see in our daily life at work. So it was just a great system. It promoted teamwork, cohesiveness, and ownership over, taking care of that space. And then, of course, we would always be respectful, giving a final announcement, hey, we're cleaning the fridge. Come grab anything or date and label anything that you don't want thrown away. So again, great system. And I haven't seen that since.
Yeah, that last piece of it is important, right? So that people's
Tupperware.
Yeah, exactly. Tupperware doesn't end up in the trash. What I love about that story, Nicole, is what you said, that 30 minutes before the end of the shift on a Friday, the team would go do that. That this organization system wasn't just a wish dream of a leader asking people on their volunteer time or on their off the clock time on the clock to manage the break room, but they were granting the employees work time to be able to manage it. It's really a statement about how important it was to that facility to carve out a piece of productivity to manage our break space. And that's a statement that says our break room is important for our patient safety, right? Having happy, well-organized breaks is worth it to be able to give employee time. So I think that's a great example for our listeners out there trying to reclaim the break room.
Yeah, it's great too. It also shows that management cares. Like when you have management behind you that is supportive in ways like that, it's so much better morale.
Yes, I definitely have to agree with that.
So, ladies, one of the ways that we've been wrapping up this season on all the episodes is we have not even completely covered the bridge topic. And I think people can kind of sense this, right? Like we've had great insights, great perspective shared, impact on quality. We got a rating scale now. We got some tips and processes here to walk away from, but there's still more to cover on the fridge topic. I'd love to see presentations out there. I'd love to see some blog articles, some worksheets, some competencies.
Maybe Nicole and I will have to tour and do presentations on the Breakroom fridge. There we go. Move over, Bobby. We're applying for each other.
There you go. But as we wrap here, I want to give you both an opportunity to just throw out another one of those little things in your perspective that also could have a big difference or does have a big difference in our departments. And maybe that's a topic that we can pick up on a future season or another blog post presentation opportunity too. And maybe, Stacey, you can go first.
Yeah, absolutely. One little tidbit besides the bridge topic that I would share is positivity. So there's a method called the sandwich method. And actually, it's one of the most well-known methods for people to absorb content. And typically at the beginning of every shift, you have a huddle. And as an MDR technician, 80% of the time, you don't hear the good. You only hear when something goes wrong. So I would say at the beginning of your huddles, do the sandwich effect. Do positivity, improvement, and finish with positivity. And I think you will start your technicians off on such a better foot for their shift that day.
Great. Yeah, classic sandwich method. If you don't know about that, go look it up. She's absolutely right. That's a classic. Great.
Well, we'll start you off smooth. We're going to just throw something in there, and then we're going to finish off smooth.
Yeah, as long as, the only comment I'll say about that, and Nicole, we'll go to you for the wrap here, but if you're doing the sandwich method, like once you kind of research it a little bit more, make sure those two good things, those two they're really positive things, right?
Absolutely.
You can't get away by just like, kind of a positive, definitely a negative, kind of another little positive. Yeah.
Like,
you
remember,
want it to be tough.
Yes, you are the superheroes. You are.
Great. All right, Nicole, we're going to give you the last word here. What's that one little thing you think also should be discussed because of the big difference it makes?
Well, I think that, this is something that is underestimated. The little things are often the big things. And I think having a consistent leadership presence in the department is one of those things. It's not for me to say how often. I don't think that there's, a one size fits all for this quote unquote little thing. But in my experience, the departments that tend to struggle the most are those that have very little, if no presence at all, with management interaction within the department. And, I'm going to go back to Sarasota Memorial again. And we had two really great managers. They ran a tight ship. They had defined expectations. So you knew what was expected of you. But they would also come into the department and help us. They would work alongside us, boxing up sets, wrapping trays, doing what they could to ensure that we had the support that we needed. And that came in the form of action. And they say that action speaks louder than words, and it truly does. As a leader, I would never expect someone to do something that I would not be willing to do myself. And I think that having leadership that doesn't lead from a pedestal is arguably step one in creating an environment with positive morale and workplace culture.
Love it. Love it. Yeah, for anyone with little kids, I'm talking babies here with like the back-facing car seats you've probably seen on the internet. But, babies get cranky sometimes when they can't see mama. And so they'll print off a picture of mama and put it on the back of the seat. So the baby can sit there and smile. I don't think that works for leadership, to your point, right? It wouldn't do to have a picture of your manager in the department. Like, that's what they look like. Yeah, I haven't seen them in a while. That's great. But yeah, great call out. Great interview and insight, ladies, on this topic of the fridge, as well as these additional topics, around positivity and, of course, leadership presence. I think both of those are terrific ways to wrap here. And yeah, I want to thank you both for your time and insight today.
Well, thank you for having us.
Thank you. This was a great experience.
All right, that was Nicole Walley and Stacey Gielen on eating clean and fighting dirty, sterile processing, and the Breakroom fridge. Bobby, I'm just going to let the cat out of the bag. You were questionable when I brought this topic up for this season on, whether or not this was actually going to fit in the theme of the season. There's going to be enough value on here. So I want to ask you, now that we're fresh off of this interview, what do you think? Was it worth it?
All right. I would say so. I've lived some of those experiences of the self-preservation, what's the right word for it? Hoarding tendencies of like, if I put my manager's name on my lunch, then they really definitely won't steal it. That kind of thing that goes on. And so certainly employee morale and just general sense of trust and teamwork is essential to patient safety. So yeah, it's definitely a conversation worth having, but it certainly is an outlier in the lineup of what we've got going for this season.
Okay, so we won you over halfway at least. There's value, but maybe not as much. No, that's true. But yeah, I thought, the insights though were terrific around the Waffle House Index and the impact, obviously, on the culture of that break room. I think Stacey said this. This is a place that you should go to be able to refresh. Then, like Nicole brought up, if the first thing you got to do is you start your break is do a little bit extra work to clean off a space so that you can sit down or you can eat and just recharge for the rest of your shift or the second half of your day, that's not a good scenario. And a lot of this, again, comes down to that fridge and this fridge management kind of conversation that we brought today. So as I said in the interview, we're just now opening this Pandora's box. There's a lot more to talk about this. I think there's even more implications out of this, and I'm excited to see, who knows, maybe some blog posts, maybe some presentations around. I think the ladies volunteered themselves to get on the road and give this show across the country. So if you want to hear more about this at your local chapters, you can connect directly with them through LinkedIn. But that's going to do it for today's episode. And I just want to thank you all for hanging with us throughout this season 25. We got one more episode coming on the topic of ultrasound, or ultrasonic cleaning, I should say. So we're not quite done yet, but we're almost there. And I want to encourage you, like we do each and every week here at Beyond Clean. Until we talk to you next week, keep fighting dirty.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Beyond Clean. As a reminder, you can help support us by subscribing to Beyond Clean on your favorite podcast app, or by downloading the smartphone app on iPhone or Android. Simply search for Beyond Clean in the App Store or Google Play. The best thing about downloading the smartphone app is that you can access bonus content for certain episodes and view episodes in certain categories, like articles on the go and vendor spotlights. Are you following us on LinkedIn or Facebook yet? If you are and you love an episode or post, then let your social network know about it. Like, comment, or share our posts along with your thoughts and keep the conversation going. If you have any topics or guests that you would like to recommend for a future episode, just send us an email to info@beyondclean.net. We look forward to hearing from you.